Thank you for tuning in to the Energy Flow podcast. I am Kelly Kennedy, and today we are talking the energy flow and how it applies to our finances. As you know, I love to look at different perspectives and reframes. And my dear friend, Will Humphreys, who's known as the virtual rock star, who's actually a physical therapist, run multiple locations of physical therapy centers, and does so much philanthropic work. In addition to that, though, he has a podcast called the Willpower Podcast. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about all things finances and how it applies to healthcare, whether we're a practitioner or we're a client. We are the entrepreneurs of our own energy flow station, if you will, called the body. And that goes for all things, including our finances. So join us today for a different perspective into the energy flow of abundance for you.
So I am so excited about this episode because when we talk about energy flow, there's different elements of it. Money has been one of the most useful tools for me to learn how to channel. And I've gone from having that being a provider who was going paycheck to paycheck on my own as a physical therapist, down to owning 5 multi-million-dollar companies. I've helped dozens of people start, build, and scale, and even sell million-dollar businesses on their own.
Hello, and welcome to the Energy Flow podcast. I'm Kelly Kennedy, and I am here to discuss all things energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. Over my 26 years of being on this journey and 19 years in clinical practice, dealing with chronically ill, chronically pained, to the optimizing of health and to everything in between, we have learned throughout these years how to efficiently and effectively teach people how the body works, get them engaged in that system, help them understand how the universe works and how those two connect. And that's what this Energy Flow podcast is about. Whether you are new to us or you've been a longtime listener of over 4 years now, we are so happy and honored to share our heart's honest truth about what we know, what has worked for us, what's worked in the clinical practice, and what might be the key to your next step in your journey. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing this with all that it will resonate with. We look forward to each and every moment of our genuine connection. Thank you for listening.
All right, y'all. Well, I've already done the intro, so you know who we're talking to. And Will Humphreys is truly a gem. And as you know, I've had a lot of gemstones dropped out of the sky for me in the last year. And what I am so excited about talking about, Will is a physical therapist by training. And how long have you run your business?
So
20
I've
years?
run multiple businesses for since 2003, so 22 years.
So, and when I met him and he started to speak, he's different. He's so heart-centered, he's so business oriented, and he's done what I know I'm also here to prove, which is the energy flow goes at every level and goes through every part of everything we do. This isn't about what we do in the morning, what we do at night. This is about how we do one thing is how we do everything. This is about how everything is energy, everything. And one of the things that I want to bring to your attention that I've heard for years on two sides, and that's what Will's here to talk about, and then I'm going to let him talk, is I've heard a lot of practitioners say, oh, it's okay to not make money. I just don't know how to make money. I don't understand how to make money. I just don't, and I can't afford to buy this equipment, and I can't afford to take this class, and I can't afford to go get this further education, which I sit there and go, well, you're limiting yourself and you're limiting your results, because if you don't have a resource to go and afford to expand your knowledge and your skill set, then you're going to limit the results you can get for your client. That's number one. If you really care, think about it that way. Number two, the other thing I've heard from clients is this is really expensive. And why does my healthcare practitioner have to charge so much? I mean, this is out of my pocket. What I do is 100% out of people's pockets. Once in a while, we'll take those HMA card or whatever those pre-tax dollar flex spending card thing, but everything else is totally out of pocket. And even when we had medical doctors, I wouldn't let anybody use insurance because what we do is out of that scope. It is wellness, not disease care. So I give you a vitamin C IV for your MS. They don't go, yeah, that works. They go, oh, that's insurance fraud. So playing
Mm.
this game of running a cash practice as I have for 20 years, running IV rooms and everything else. And what you've done is, as a physical therapist, saw these bleeding heart, love them so much, people that don't love their artistry and care for what they do, don't know how to be successful at it, which means they're limited in what they can impact. And you've gone in and gone, I'm going to help you make more money. I'm going to help you be efficient at what you're doing so you can do more of what you do. And that's what I want everyone to understand. This is a two-sided co-creation, and Will has the answer. And I'm so grateful to have him here to talk about this. So welcome, Will.
Kelly, I can't even begin to tell you how grateful I am for this show. You were anyway, we're siblings, right? Like you and I were always meant to connect, and this is a beautiful way in which the universe allowed us to sit with each other and this wonderful audience. I want to thank everyone for tuning in as well. You know what we're going to be talking about today is life changing. And it's cool because it's not a matter of like becoming something we're not. It's actually more about getting things out of the way that are already present for us that call forth abundance in all of its forms, financially, emotionally. And it's interesting because what we'll be spending our focus today is talking about money. I can tell you, you know, Kelly, my experience as a physical therapist and then a physical therapist owner, one who grew up in a poor family where my dad filed for bankruptcy a few times and we were living paycheck to paycheck, is this like mindset of like how money is something that's so scarce. And when we can shift that relationship, this is a preview, especially for the second half of this episode. When we can shift that mindset, then we can channel and actually find very easily an abundance of wealth of in all of its forms into our lives. So I am so excited about this episode because when we talk about energy flow, there's different elements of it. Money has been one of the most useful tools for me to learn how to channel. And I've gone from having that being a provider who was going paycheck to paycheck on my own as a physical therapist down to owning 5 multi-million-dollar companies. I've helped dozens of people start, build, and scale, and even sell million-dollar businesses on their own. And it really does begin foundationally with this thing called relationship to money and energy. And when we can see how those things are obstructed for us, and we understand how we're actually the ones damming up the money coming in, and because we think we have to go get it, right? Like we have to earn it, and shame on us if we get lots of it. Then we
There's
can
so
start.
many things. There's
There's so
so
many barriers. We all have a different barrier we choose to put them up, but there's a lot of relatable barriers, aren't there?
There really are. And for me, it's the same flow of the source of energy that heals us, and when you lay your hands on folks, like we talked about when I was on your podcast, which is what you did when you were a physical therapist, and what the people that you help train do is they literally lay hands on people's bodies and help them align their structure. So from my perspective, that's really great because now they're getting their fascia, their
Yeah.
subluxations all in alignment, so the lymph can flow, so the oxygen can get to where it gets to, so the water can structure, so the body can be in regeneration and healing. Because it's as simple as that, folks. Don't make it more complicated. Does energy flow? Does it flow towards regeneration? And does it make beautiful water crystals or dissonant water crystals? That's it. And when you are laying the hands on people and you're in this like, oh, I can hardly pay my rent. And oh my God, I really need to spend 3 hours with this person to help them through this process. But how can I possibly ask them for that kind of money? And yet I need to keep my family fed. It's an ongoing journey because both sides, we feel it for the people that are laying on the table going, wow, they really need to come in 6 times a week. They really need
Yeah.
to also see the acupuncturist, and they really need to go work on, their mental thing, and they need some time off from their work so they can actually focus on healing. That the money subject for me has become I talk about it constantly with clients.
Yes.
And it's a prioritization, it's a value. Oh, I can do this. I don't allow people to hide it. from their spouse. I used because that was a common thing. So there's so many things that I see from a wellness perspective that this is one of the blockades to healing. This is what I call the
Yes.
emotional blockade to healing. And I would love for you to dive in, Will, to talk about what you've seen as a business owner, as a physical therapist, as a heart-centered human being, money, power, and flow.
Yeah. So let's define this thing called money. Money is this beautiful, or fiat, better stated. Let's use the word fiat and money interchangeably. People are like, what's fiat? It's money. And the reason I like to use that is because when I say the word money, automatically we are inherently triggered with the educational environments that we were raised in. So how we are raised around money will determine a lot about how we relate to it, and either openly receive it, which is rare in most cases, or to be blocked off in various ways. So I grew up in that home I described, where in El Paso, Texas, my dad was trying different businesses and failed repeatedly, which was one of the greatest gifts. His failures in business taught me that you don't have to have money to be happy. You don't have to have it. And I also saw the utility of this thing called money, because we weren't able to create experiences or have things that would have been useful. You know, whether it was certain like classes, coaches. I had to stop taking piano classes after 4 years. I've been teaching myself piano as an adult. And it's just because like those money comes into play as this wonderful representation of the physical world of flow. So when we, as these eternal beings living in this mortal journey, have this opportunity for a short while to be on this earth, we can recognize it for what it is, a representation of flow and abundance. And so I was taught young very quickly that money is scarce, that you have to grind to get it, and that only some people are lucky enough to have it.
And
Those
you
were
have to
three.
deserve and work hard to get it, right?
Yes, yes. And later when I became a healthcare provider, that's when I remember the first day of physical therapy school, they were like, so what do you want to do? And everyone else was talking about specializing in hands or working in the inpatient. And I said, well, I want to own my own outpatient practice. And they said, I got shamed, Kelly. They were like, oh, you're in it for the money. And I just remember going, wow, what an incredible judgment and leap. And I thought maybe it was just that person, but I heard it over and over and over again, which I realized is part of this healthcare journey for patients and for people, is that we see if a healthcare provider is very rich or wealthy and have abundance financially, that, you know, we have lots of different judgments around that. And especially in healthcare, we would see that as someone who's about the money, like that's their why. But what we don't understand, Kelly, is that we need both. We need the why, which is this internal drive to serve with others, this heart-centered love of the human race and helping them heal. And we need this utility of money. So the money becomes the what. I call it the two-sided coin. The why of what we do and the what. The what is the money. It's the score on the scoreboard. Right now, the NBA playoffs are going off as we're filming this. And I'm actually not a big sports person, but what I love is this idea that like no one is playing the game for the number on the scoreboard. The scoreboard is a representation of the completion of their effort.
Mm.
So when it comes to our fulfillment of the why we exist on this planet, if we're medical professionals, we have to accept and want to accept the fact that part of that measurement of success and impact in the lives of others is the money that we make. And this is where people get screwed up. People think, okay, because there are people who are in it for the money. Their what becomes their why. They're about the money and they will break laws to get it. They will scam people to get it because they see it as a scarce thing that only select few have. And that money represents value that goes beyond temporal value. And that's why they pursue it so aggressively to their own out of integrity effort, right? Or you have the extreme opposite side, which is my journey, which is where most of your audience is listening, which is like, well, I'm doing this because I love people, not because I love money. Yeah, but you're not doing this to make money. You're making money to do more of this. Do you see
Ooh,
that
that's incredible.
difference?
You're making money to do more of this. That's exactly how I've lived true wellness. In 20 years, we've just kept reinvesting in the business. I mean, we lived in a one bedroom, one
Yeah.
car home for 3 years with two dogs over 90 pounds. Then
Wow.
we just kept pouring in, pouring in, pouring. It was 20 years later. We semi-retired Ian this year, and we finally are in our dream home. And I literally said to Ian, if this was about the money for me, I would have stopped right where I'm at in about January 6th of this year when we bought this house.
Yeah. If this was your why.
If
Hmm.
my why was financial safety and security, it took me 20 years running my own business before I finally was like, oh, I feel a little safe, feel financially safe. Oh, oh. And if it was about that, I would have stopped growing the practice, but I didn't. And I created an opportunity for us to be like, maybe we're not, that safety thing isn't so important. And let's keep growing the practice. And
Yeah.
because reinvesting in us, which is what I look at when clients come in to work with us, is it's an investment in them and their healthcare, because I'm not here to make them dependent upon me. I'm here to teach them how to be better, how to and be their best physician and take care of this body, mind, spirit, energy, and emotion that they're living in this physical vessel, and
Yes.
allow them to support themselves and facilitate themselves and have a tribe to do so. That takes their input of their energy flow into it to learn with both their time, which is one of the investments, and their money, which is the other,
Yes.
which allows me to continue to learn new things like, how to make a podcast and have people that know how to make it pretty so that you guys can receive it, and then get on social media to make that successful, because I didn't look at it for 15, however long it was around, until 5 years ago. And so,
Yes.
no, this is the resource of abundance, and it is all part of this equation. You can't separate them because
No, they're so linked, and it's
same thing.
I'm hoping later we'll talk on the second half of this episode about how to open those channels to receive the most
Yeah.
abundance financially, because it's an interesting thing. For now, I will say this: it goes both ways. When we start to see money as like abundance, and that we can always tap into as much as we want,
Like
whenever we want.
Like breath, right at the tip of your nose. It's all there for you. Go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean.
Yes, like your breath. Like when you know that it's there in as much as you need whenever you want, which sounds kind of crazy because I mean, again, there is this thing called work and this thing called jobs and effort. Like those things are in play, but there is a completely different experience when we are set for the purpose of doing what we're doing for others. The energy we tap into accesses this flow in all of its forms. Financial being one of my favorite, because the financial terms in this temporal world becomes this incredibly useful tool to help serve others. So if I am here's an example: if I'm going out to work and my goal is to be out of debt, and that's why I'm going to work, that's a worthy, good cause, and I can be successful at it. But it's going to be very different than if the reason I'm going to work is to bring 4,444 families out of poverty, which is why I get out of bed every day.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Cobalt blue glass water bottles from the True Wellness Center, with love at the center, the highest vibe, magical water on the go. 2 water bottle sizes. Check them out. You'll love it, and I love you.
I get out of bed every day for that reason. And I have these people overseas that I've worked with that have come out of poverty, who have cried when they bought their first refrigerator. I get up excited to face my day. And it doesn't mean I don't have hard days. It doesn't mean I don't have challenges, but the energy, and I talk about this all the time with my friends who understand this concept. Yesterday, I'm not kidding, Kelly, it was yesterday. I was in this group of guys who are in the same like experience now. And it's like, it is impossible to describe the way the universe starts working for you in an effortless way once you've committed to abundance for others. It's not that I still don't want to be out of debt or all those different things, but it's a prioritization as to my why. And when we go, and it goes both ways, as patients, looking to get healthcare, we get messed up when we start thinking about trying to get the best care at the cheapest amount. And so when we start looking at, I have a son who has a brain injury. We learned a long time ago that we don't worry about the price tag. It's not that it doesn't twinge. That's normal. There's a human experience when a piece of, I have yet mastered that energy flow to where it's like non-existent for me to see a price tag. But almost everything he needs is outside the typical medical realm, and it's very pricey. The most recent treatment he got was $50,000. Yeah, there was thought about that. It wasn't like, but I made a commitment a long time ago in learning this lesson of money energy flow, that when it comes to certain things, I will move mountains because the universe will help me move mountains to make those things happen. But those mountains oftentimes get moved because elsewhere in my world, I'm looking to serve others with my money. And I don't know. I have a sister-in-law, Kelly, who we were talking recently. She is a child of a billionaire. No kidding. My brother does very well. He does very well. And they were talking about going to a certain experience that was like going to cost $3,000 to $5,000. And it was like this really important experience. And she was incredibly like, oh, that's just a waste of money. That is such a like a horrible thing to do with money. And by the way, this thing that they were going to spend on, there's an experience that the money was donated to charity. And so I
Mm.
even told her, I'm like, but the money's going to charity, and then you're going to have this experience. Can I ask you what's holding you back? And she's like, well, I just think that's wasteful. Like I, once you get to that abundant mindset, you see, and you don't judge it because we're all there, but you see how others operate in this place of scarcity in such a limiting way. And so as a result of that, she didn't have the experience, and she went back, and this is a woman that like on the outside, 99% of the world would look at and go, what are you worried about?
Yeah, she's got everything.
Yeah, and she has more than she knows, but she acts, and this is the key thing because this is the heart set of it, the flow of it all. She thinks and acts as if money is a scarcity that like a flash in the pan. It's like you could have it and it could be gone. And the truth, and she's not wrong in the sense that like, yeah, it could all of our material possessions could leave us at any time. But if we're always in the service of some greater cause and our heart is set, and we realize it doesn't define us as an individual value, which is another key element and maybe another podcast, then it becomes this beautiful tool that the universe can provide. But we've got to be really clear that it's never ours, even when we have it. It's just, we've got to let it in. And there's nothing wrong, again, to paying off debt and like having some nice things. But like, if the main purpose is that we want to do something powerful in the world, and that's what we do, that the universe will give it. We have to trust that the universe will give it, because I am absolute proof that it will.
That was so much beauty and like I could talk to you for 6 hours, and that's how we felt when we because you really are my brother. I get it. And
Totally.
I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 23 years old.
Love that book.
It's the energy book. And recently I read It's Not Your Money, which I called, have you ever read that, Tasha Silver?
No, but I love it.
It's wonderful. It's about the fact that we're trust fund babies of divine. And
Mm,
it changed my world. Think and Grow Rich helped me understand, because I, like you, grew up in a family where we were in scarcity because of my dad's illness, because he couldn't work consistently, because he always had to be getting treatments, that it
yeah.
was this ongoing scarcity of health and money. And so I wanted to be a rich doctor. Probably for the same reason you did, because I wanted stability. Because when I played Barbie, it was a doctor or a professor that had the nice car and the big house and a
Yeah.
briefcase and a dog. That was it. There was no Ken to be found. I'm
Right.
very happy to be married and have my son and our son, and truly a blessing that I never saw coming, that has been the greatest gift in my life. And it came as abundance because all I wanted to do was serve others. And as you were talking, I was like, wow, there's just so much here for people. I
Yeah.
pray that you all listen to this multiple times, because what Will has thrown down, I pray you pick up and receive. And we're going to talk about that on the second half, because this is about receiving. Because if you
Yes.
really listen to everything he said and really receive what he said, all of your abundance issues can go away when you truly understand and follow that white rabbit. I am Trinity, follow the white rabbit, Matrix, if you don't get my
Oh,
reference,
I get it. Love that reference.
because this is the key. I too am living proof that when you run a business, and it has not been easy, because when the schedule sucked, I knew it was my fault.
Yeah.
When the money wasn't there to buy that piece of equipment that I knew was going to help that client, it was my fault. When I didn't have the money to help that client that couldn't afford our services, and I knew that I really wanted to help them, it was my fault.
Mm.
I am yet in a place where I can start the nonprofit part of what I want to do, because there are a lot of people that need time to overcome their own mindset
Yeah.
and to receive the gift of the healing and the experience that the true wellness experience offers, to apply the science of energy to allow you experience this healing force. And you need the healing force of the money to often experience it. And I know that all of this is happening now as we're having this conversation, because that's how this all works. Because
Right.
this is going to bring that to me, because I'm willing to have the tough conversation, allow you to have the tough conversation with yourself. Because the only thing limiting you from getting the care you want is putting it as your priority. Because I have put my health care above food, above shelter, above every single thing, because it is the most important thing. Because if you think money's not important, wait till you don't have health.
Right.
Then it becomes the only thing, because it buys you health. And that's what sucks. I don't disagree with that. However, that is the world we're in right now. And in order for us to change that world, we have to learn how to play this game in integrity with energy. Because now that I've cleaned that up and I've had my team for 11 years, 7 years, my husband and I, of course, 20 years together, and we've all come together and we've all energetically aligned from this perspective, and knowing this as a team, it's allowing us to expand in a quantum way that's going to go, whoa, she did this overnight. No, it looks like that. And it's because the energy flow, like you said, it's providing beyond. When your alignment happens, it's like, whew,
Right.
whew. And your health is the same way. And learning how to put this together is the key.
Agreed. And it's a beautifully stated. I think it's one of those things too, where it's an interesting balance of being hyper clear that on what we want. Like if I was going to break this kind of just general concept down from how I've experienced and lived it, it would be being super clear on what I want, why I want it, trusting that I'll get it in that order. What do I want? Why do I want? Trusting that it will happen in that order. And then it's this weird thing of doing everything that I can possibly do to make it happen without running around with my head cut off. That's where I make a mistake. Where I start to accidentally distrust the source, whether that's God for you or the light of creation, whatever that is. For me, it's God. Like when I've come to realize that like if I am doing the best I can for the why is because I want to help others, then I can trust it. And when I start looking, what it looks like when I'm not trusting it is like I'm busy and booking myself out and running
You
around and
do.
not taking care of my body.
You
And
do you.
because it's me, because at that point it's me, not them. And so it's a weird letting go, but for me, that looks like faith of just this thing called, you know what? I'm going to scale back, focus on the elements that matter. I'm still hyper productive. I'm not doom scrolling 6 hours a day. And by the way, I doom scroll, but it's one of those things where, and it's never a perfect journey. But it's a matter of like overall my intentionality being trusting that the universe will provide it. That's when these things start to align. But I have to have the space to see that it's coming from the universe. And how do I know it's coming from the universe? I learned this a long time ago. It looks like excitement. When I have something come down that feels clear and is exciting and gives me energy, I'm recognizing that now as, for me, my language, from God. And so I start to pursue that And the more I follow that line of excitement, I start to see other things starting to happen to me. People look at my current business now and they're like, wow, I've had people, I'm very grateful for the business I have now. I'm hesitating going into details, but I just want to say this. People who know the details of it are like, how you must be brilliant at business. And I'm like, I don't know if I had as much to do with this as you possibly can imagine. What I've done well is want the outcome, be really clear on what that outcome is, who it's for. And this time around, and I've definitely gone this journey a few times with my companies over the years, is I'm just following the excitement, and man, things just start happening. So I tell people this, the current business that I have is a gift from God. I am a steward of it. It's not mine. Legally it is. That money comes in. I will take some away. I will abundantly apply that towards the health of my family and myself. I will be more scrutinous as a steward would be of any other things that I'm buying. Not that I think there's anything. Yeah. Like, right. It's kind of funny. If you went to my house right now, you would think, oh, it's a very average tract home in a very average neighborhood. We can afford something different on whatever, and I have no judgment against people who are having that. That's just not what I want. What I want is my kids to have a certain environment with their friends, and they happen to have that here. So it's because it's not mine. It's about expecting it, but also realizing that when it comes to us, it's not ours when we get it. And so it's that type of detachment combined with knowing what we want that brings it in.
And that's what Buddha talked about. That's real detachment from knowing that things can come and things can go. It's all temporal, as is the body. And,
Right.
none of it's ours. And anybody who's owned businesses and run their own businesses, perhaps what your sister-in-law is a victim of essentially, and she's playing that out victim card, is that she didn't create it. So it doesn't feel like she has a little lack of self-value because it was gifted versus being in receivership of this abundance and using it as the gift. And what I would love to do is on the second half, again, talk about that receiving, because there's so much here. And we could
Let's get into that. I think that'd be incredibly useful because now we can talk about the actual steps of like, how do you receive this abundance and what does that look like?
So join us on that, won't you? And in the meantime, stay tuned in right here. Stay tuned in. Take a breath. It's okay. You don't understand everything that we talked about today. Just know it's all there for you. It's all at the tip of your nose. It's all for just like you said, it's a formula. There's more at the air. We love you all. Will, thank you. And let's
My pleasure.
Anything else you want to say before we go over to part 2?
Just thanks to all of you who are listening. And I hope you'll follow me over. This is a journey that goes so much more beyond money. The money is what it looks like at the end of the day, which might be an exciting, like enticing reason to jump over, but it's who we become in that journey where the value's at. And that's what I'll end on.
Well, champions of the vibe flow community, energy flowing through that body, thank you for sharing this time with us and getting through the entire episode today. I know time is what we're spending here as our currency on this planet as people, and it really does mean a lot that as we devote our time and energy into creating this content, that you stuck with us throughout it. So if you would like more on this particular subject from this expert and get that free gift, make sure to register for our Energy Flow Forum. And you too, with a very nominal price, can access all sorts of upgraded content and deeper dives into the very subjects that you love: energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. As you know, as always on this show and any content that we create, it is for your own health purposes. This is not intended to be advice or medical diagnoses or professional advice. It's purely information that if it resonates with you and you apply it and you upgrade, we love to hear about it. What a great coincidence, and we're happy to be on that journey with you. If this doesn't resonate with you and you know somebody it will, pass it along. And in the meantime, know that we truly are here to show you and explain to you and be with you through this lovely journey of life, and to share our experiences together and help each other upgrade, because that's how we're going to do this together, collaborating. with love at the center. I'm Kelly Kennedy, and I am so grateful from my heart to yours to share this time, energy, and space with you.